guys, welcome back to Simply Fujica, a place for budding and aspiring entrepreneurs. And guys, I have a good one for you today. But first, before we get started, if you're new to this channel, I definitely want to welcome you. We are here to start our home care agencies, build each other up, and build our businesses. Guys, go ahead and make sure you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, hit the bell notification so that you're reminded every time I drop new content. So today, I am welcoming glorious Hawa. We're going to bow down. We're going to bow down.
Thank you for having me on your channel. I'm so excited.
Yay! I'm excited. She's excited. You guys, because in this community, we talk a lot about starting our home care agencies, hiring home health aides, LVNs, all of those things to support our businesses. But I thought it would be nice to speak from the caretaker's point of view about the industry. So I have a couple of questions lined up. But first of all, I do want to welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
so
taking
much.
time. Now, guys, I have to let you in on a secret. So whenever I talk to you guys about hiring someone to represent your agency, I always talk to you about hiring for excellence, hiring someone who would represent you in a good way. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. We were just saying before the camera went live, it's been four and a half years. 4.5 lovely years. We were just kind of laughing and talking about how many frogs we kissed before we got to this princess, before we got to this queen.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you just kind of tell the audience about yourself, and then we'll jump into the profession.
Okay, so my name is Hawa. I am a caregiver. I do have my LVN license, and I've been working in the healthcare industry for well over 18 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm actually surprised that I still enjoy it. It's very fulfilling to me. I don't think I'll ever see myself giving that up anytime soon, especially where I'm at right now. So, yeah, this is really good.
Nice. Now, let me ask you this. What made you actually get started into the industry?
You know what? It wasn't by choice, actually.
Okay.
I graduated from high school in 2006, and my mom was like, well, if you're looking for extra money, hey, why don't you become a CNA? So I was like, sure, why not? It wasn't anything. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into, because I knew my first day of clinicals, I'm like, why did I do this to myself? But it turned out to be great. I'm a people person, and I'm really, really good at just kind of tuning into what somebody needs physically, emotionally, and I like it. I really enjoy myself. And I know that when I talk to like my family, and I'm talking about it, they're like, wow, you really do light up. So,
yeah, she does. And the one thing that I will say in terms of Hawa, and it's not just because she's sitting right across from me, is she is serious about the way that she moves. Like, she doesn't half-step. Whatever she is doing with or for you, she gives 120%. So it's not one of those things where you ask her to do something and you hope it gets done. You know it's going to get done. And so when I talk about someone moving in the spirit of excellence, that's what I'm talking about. I can't remember her ever half-stepping at all. So let me ask you this. So you kind of started into the industry initially as a CNA.
Yes.
So kind of walk us through your your progression through the industry.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I went to CNA school. I took about 3 months, a couple $100, which was great at the time. And as soon as I finished, I was lucky enough to find a job right away. So I started CNA school in August of 2006, and it was done by November. And by the second week in November, I had a job already, which was great. I worked at the same place for 11 years, and it had its ups and downs, but one thing I would say it always kept me doing was learning.
Yes.
I didn't have to be just what my role was. I was paying attention to the LVNs, I was paying attention to the RNs, I was paying attention to the DON, I was paying attention to everything, because I saw myself being in this industry maybe after the first year of working there. And I was like, wow, this is something I can really see myself doing. So I worked there, and maybe by year 5, I decided to go to school. I went to American Career College and got my LVN. I know, and I've had it ever since. It took me, now guys, it took me 3 tries on that test before I passed. And I have to say, after the first one, I was about to throw in the towel already. I really, really was. My brother was the one who was like, don't give up.
Right.
Just keep going. Don't give up. So I took the test again, and I failed it again. And then on the 3rd try, I passed. Oh my God, I called everyone I knew from the parking lot. I really, I was so excited. I called everyone before I even drove my car out of that space, but it was great. And then after that 11th year, I mean, I was having problems with the place I was working at for a couple of years already, but I knew it was a stepping stone and I wasn't going to be there forever. I would have loved to stay there forever because I learned a lot from that place, don't get me wrong, but I took a vacation to help my sister while she was pregnant, and I just never went back.
Nice.
That was the point where I was like, I can do better for myself. I know I can. Because it got to the point where I wasn't enjoying the job anymore. And I wanted to find that passion again because I knew I had it. So I stopped. But I didn't know what my next steps were. No one told me what to do. I didn't know what the plan was, but I just knew I couldn't be there anymore. So after that, I was like, well, I still want to be a caregiver, so what do I do? What are my first steps? I went back to drawing board, worked on my resume all over again, and I was like, okay, so now what? No one teaches you, they don't coach you, there are not a lot of videos out there to tell you. Honestly, I think your channel has been the first one that I've really seen talk extensively about getting into the hair care system, what to do, the file, like you're so detailed.
Thank you.
And I really, really love that. So yeah,
Thank you.
Inviting me here today is absolutely great. So after that, I was like, well, I need to market myself.
Yes. Yes.
I need to, what am I going to do? So after I worked on my resume, I came up with a name, what I would like to call this business, my business. And I decided to register to get a license for it.
Nice.
So I did the application, they got back to me, and then I registered the business, all that stuff. Then I went on and made some business cards.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I went on and made some business cards, and I was like, well, where do I start from? I drove to every job that I've ever held and dropped off my cards.
Yes.
I was like, what else do I do? I don't know what else to do.
So can I stop you really quick? Because that just sent chills up my spine. Because in this channel, I get a lot of questions about, but how? But how? And I always reply back, it's a hustle.
Yep.
You got to dig deep. And sometimes you just step out. And sometimes you don't know what the plan is. But you got to keep one foot in front of the other and just keep innovating. Just keep doing. But go ahead. I think that was so perfect.
Yeah. So after that, I was like, well, I need to build an online presence as well, not just physically. So when I got the business cards, I literally drove everywhere. Even the places I didn't know. I went to dentist's office, I went to hospice, I went to convalescent homes, I went to hospitals. I even went to a dentist's office at one point, and I was like, well, hi, is it okay if I just put my card here? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I was able to do that in a lot of places. And then I decided to go to websites like Indeed.
Yes.
To put my job there and stuff like that. I signed up for online healthcare agencies like CareLinks and Care.com. And I just started to put myself out there, and I was like, well, something's going to pan out soon enough. But from the time where I decided to leave my job and start my own, I think it was probably about 2 months before I got my first client.
Nice. And thank you for providing that time frame, because I think that's a lot of questions that we get too.
Yeah.
So how long does that take?
Right.
And of course it is going to be different for everybody, but again, if you put in that hustle, right, then that's hopefully will shorten that time.
Yeah, please guys, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Don't do that. It'll happen when it's supposed to. Just keep believing and just have faith that it'll happen. Because at one point I thought, well, I'm not getting any work. What am I supposed to do now? I put my cards everywhere. No one is calling me. and I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it made me doubt myself, it made me sick. At one point I was just like, well, so I decided to just pray and give it to God, and within a week I got a call from my first client.
Nice.
And I've never turned back since.
Now, let me say this, let me ask you this, because you actually have experience working in that clinical session, and that was that what was that? A retirement facility?
It was a convalescent home.
It was a convalescent home.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've done in-home care.
Yes.
Tell me about what it takes to support one versus the other. Or is it the same?
It's definitely not the same.
Okay.
I would say if you choose to start your own business, it takes a lot of work.
Okay, we are going to switch gears a little bit. And guys, this is a good comment time. To me, I feel like this is a good comment moment. If you want to hear more about how Hawa actually constructed this into a business for herself, because I want to dig deeper into that, but we only have a few minutes. And like she's saying, you're creating paperwork, you're marketing yourself. I think that's a beautiful topic for a lot of our listeners. So if you guys want to do that as a separate video, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you put it in the comment section below, okay? I want to switch gears a little bit because some of the questions that I have got from some other home care agencies is, right now home care agencies are, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but they are very popular.
Absolutely.
And in any given radius, there could be 5, there could be 6, there could be 7.
Right.
And so I think some of the agencies are kind of feeling constricted in terms of finding good employees.
Exactly.
And then, fostering that loyalty.
Right.
What would your advice be to someone who owns an agency, really trying to make sure they're staffing their agency with some Hawas?
I don't think, for me, I feel like when someone applies for a job to your agency, for example, and all you have for this person to base their work on is just what they have on paper, maybe a few references that they have. The only true test would be to see how they work. You have to physically see it yourself for you to know what type of person they are. How they conduct themselves in front of the client, how they conduct themselves when there's no one around. How they speak to you, how their work gets done. That's the most important thing. I think that you have to really watch who you bring in, because you don't know what their character is. So I think the best way, I would say, like for anyone who has their own healthcare agency, just watch how they work. That's what that probationary period is for. I feel like people take that for granted. A lot of places have 1 month, some people have 3 months, but they just kind of skate by and just, don't really pay attention to how they work. Use that time. Use that time and take it very seriously and pay attention to who you bring in. Because there's only so much paperwork and references can say. The person's work should be able to speak for themselves, I think. That's the best. Yeah.
Awesome. Real quick before we jump to the other side of that token, but really quickly, differentiation. We talk about that a lot because, to your point, there's only so much you can do. We're providing care.
Right.
So what would be your advice to some of these home care owners in terms of differentiating themselves from other home care agencies?
What you have to give. I think it's very easy for people to create an illusion. The building looks nice and state of the art this and that and third. What it comes down to is your staffing. Starting from the people in the office to the dietitians in the kitchen, everyone has to be in sync. It's so important because I've been to different buildings where you go in and this one says one thing but the other person doesn't know what she's talking about because there's no real communication. You communicate with each other. It's just like a normal relationship. Your work and the way you communicate is shown throughout. And the staffing from the clients who come in, they'll be able to see it and know that, okay, these people have something good to offer. So you can make a building look nice, but when it comes down to it, it's the care. It's the quality of care. You have to be able to provide it. If you say it, you have to do it. no cutting corners, no any of those things. When you say it, if it's part of your mission statement as a company, you have to live up to it. Because that's how those families and those clients spread the word, and that's how you get more business and more notoriety, and more people know that you do good work. So I think, yeah,
Very
I think
nice.
it's very important.
I like that. And so another way of saying that is those policies and procedures that
Right.
you spend so much time building for you to get licensed. I love what you just said. Everyone in the organization has to be aware and know those policies and procedures.
Exactly.
That way, no matter who's speaking to who, you guys are all speaking the same language,
Yeah.
and everyone is clear on expectations. So
That's
that
right.
is beautiful
That's
advice. Thank you for that. And then I do want to jump to the other side, and then I would love for you to talk us through a day in the, a day in the life type
Okay,
thing.
sure.
Okay. So now let's talk on the other side, because some of the folks that have watched this channel are actually caretakers. And so I think at this point they were, of course some of them are okay,
Right.
doing that, but then we have some that have aspirations for more.
Exactly.
And so give them some advice if you don't mind.
I feel like the most important thing to know is before you jump into this, make sure it's something you want to do. Make sure it's your passion. That's the only way that even when the difficult times come, you'll be able to endure them. Because there will be difficult times, trust me.
Yes.
They come in waves, but they don't last forever. My mom always says that, and I'm sure you've heard it before. Tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Make sure it's something that you really want to do. You see yourself doing it for a long time, because that's the only way you'll enjoy it. That's the only way you'll enjoy it. And just be ready to do a lot of research. A lot of research. Never stop trying to learn about the business you want to get into, because there's always something new. There are always some new rules and new regulations and new laws, and always be open to learning about the healthcare industry. I think that's pretty much, yeah.
It's because it's ever evolving,
Every
that's true.
single time, yeah. When you're in school, you read books that are like 10 years old. By then they have 2 new books that came after that have something completely different. So yeah, definitely always be willing to learn. Make sure it's something you want to do, and make sure it's something you can devote a lot of time into, because it takes a lot of time.
Nice.
Yeah, and you have to be very patient.
I love that. I do want to, let's touch on the day in the life.
Okay.
Tell me about when you're at someone's home, what does that look like for anyone who's watching this?
Well, let's say I start early in the morning and I leave my house like around 8 o'clock, head over to my first client. Usually I take a moment in the car to just kind of gather the paperwork that I need for that client. I have a folder that has all of my forms and stuff that I need, and now for every client it's different. Their care is different, what they need is different, so I have to make sure I look through and, look at what I'm supposed to do, and I pick out all my paperwork, and then I head in and I start the work, if it's to take them to the bathroom, help them bathe, whatever it is, make phone calls for doctor's appointments, follow up with results and tests and stuff like that, things that I need to do, their medication, and I just go ahead and fill out all my paperwork after. So usually I spend about, right now with my first client I spend about 5 hours there. So by the time the shift ends, I let the family know of any progress or regress for the day. I fill out all of my paperwork and make sure they're okay with it, and I make sure they sign it. It's very important, because in the healthcare industry they say if you don't document it, it wasn't done.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So I always make sure that I go ahead and document that, and then I just finish all my paperwork there in person, because I don't like to go home and have all this back paperwork that I have to go and do again. And that's pretty much it. I move on to the next client until my day's over.
That's amazing. One thing that I will say, and I think this is why for us, like literally after we had Hawa as a family, we never hired anyone after her unless it was because she wasn't available. One thing that I would say, just to kind of throw out there, building that relationship with that client. I noticed Hawaii, now of course now we're like family, but when we initially started, I loved how she would take some time just talking to the client, building that relationship. Even before she started any care, it was, how are you this morning? You know, let's get some coffee going.
Exactly. Always coffee.
Always, I mean, coffee's always the answer. When in doubt, get some coffee. But talk a little, like, is that, so to me, this is a good question. Is that innate from you, or is that something you learned along the way?
That's definitely innate for me.
Okay.
For as long as I've been in the healthcare industry, I've seen how these people communicate. Even the ones that are seasoned and have so much experience, they just run right into the patient's room. Hi, I have to do this, do it, and then they get out. They don't take the time. But what they don't see is the look on the patient's or the client's face. I pay attention to that type of stuff.
Yes.
And I feel like if you take the time, even if it's 5 minutes, I know we're all concerned about time management and getting the job done, but 5 minutes makes a difference. Trust me. I've had a client who basically was ready to be, admitted as a hospice patient. And I was with him for 4 months. And that was over 12 years ago. He's still alive till today.
Wow.
And he'll call me from time to time just to tell me about what he did that day, and because he knows that I want to hear that type of stuff, Sometimes that's the best way to get into your client's mind, just to see how they feel. Because from the outside, they have a look that they're giving you, but what's inside is so much more different. They wish they weren't in that situation. They wish they could do for themselves, but they can't. That's where you come in. That compassion is something that they tell you in school, but I feel like when people leave school, they forget all about that. I've never forgotten about it. 18 years plus, and I don't think I'll ever stop doing it because it's given me some of the best results I've ever wanted from any client.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, y'all, she's gonna try to make me cry up in here. We're not gonna do that today. We're not doing that on camera. I just need to let y'all know that. But I think you did touch on something that's so important, and you can't do it if you're not paying attention, but just those nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
Not everyone is gonna be able to communicate. Like, I'm laughing, she's gonna know what I'm talking about now. My mother-in-law, this is not her. Okay? She's gonna tell you what's going on. Okay?
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about that with her.
That's pretty much all they need. They don't need you to help them do anything else. They just want someone to talk to. Unfortunately, because of how we live in today's societies, not all family members are just able to be present. Sometimes when I go to their homes or their, wherever they are, sometimes I end up going to a convalescent home to see them. They just feel like either they're a burden, they don't want to talk to their families about it or whatever it is. And that's where I come in. You have to be an advocate because you are getting paid to take care of this patient. That means everything about them, not just physically, mentally, spiritually, everything that they need. They're hoping to get that from you. So be their outlet, no matter what it is. Just be their outlet. Even if it's something you can't necessarily control or do about it, just be there to listen. That's all it takes sometimes, And if they're able to express what it is that they want to you, you as their advocate is able to communicate that with their families. A lot of the time, the families turn around and they're like, I didn't even know that's what she wanted. Or I didn't even know that's what he was feeling. Because they don't feel like they can talk to their family because they have jobs and children and other things to focus on. So that easily falls by the wayside. And that's definitely where you as a caregiver come in.
Nice. Let me ask you, kind of as we're wrapping this up, give some words of advice to both the caretaker, the home care agency, the aspiring home care agency owner. Just what are your parting advice for them?
So I think we'll do this in 2 parts really quick, okay? For the home care agency owner or administrator, whoever you are, I would say be open to listening to your care staff team.
Nice.
Sometimes they come up with better advice than they would in a business meeting with other suits around, because they're not around to see what goes on day to day. There's a lot of problem solving that are on their heads and their minds, but they're not able to relay that because they don't have that outlet that is supposed to be provided by you. That's pretty much my only advice for that. And when it comes to the caregivers, please, 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 be compassionate.
Yes.
Not only to the, to the clients, but to the owners as well. They want you to be able to help them, but they have their own things that they're stressed out about. Okay? So just be a helping hand. Don't be a problem causer.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Right? Be a helping hand for them, because trust me, there are a lot of things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't pay attention to. I do, because that's just how I'm wired. They won't tell that to you because obviously you're the care staff, they don't feel like they have that connection. But if you take the time and pay attention, you'll definitely be a helping hand for them, and they'll appreciate you for that in the long run, trust me.
Nice. This has been all that I imagined it would be. Thank you so much. You guys, just to let you know, I texted her last week and I said, hey, would you be interested in, I think almost immediately, sure, when? We started putting together the time and date, but this is exactly what I was talking about. This is definitely an industry that, and I think you're really confirming this for me. This is an industry where you can stand up a healthy business, you can make some money, but you do have to have compassion.
Absolutely.
Okay, you have to, no matter what your role is in this industry, compassion has to live there, and you have got to hustle. You have got to hustle. There's no way around it, y'all. But I do want to thank you for taking the time to tune in today and watch this entire video. Again, if you want to hear more about the business aspect of this, because on this channel we talk about the business part of it. Make sure you indicate that in the comments section. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video, and then absolutely make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you're notified every time I release new content. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, and I can't wait to come back and see you guys next time I come with my list, because I have a lot of information for you.
There we go. I love it. So guys, actually, thank you for saying that. Any questions we didn't answer, drop them in the comment section. We may have to do a part 2 and then a business series. We'll see. All right, guys. Stay blessed.